Hey, everybody, on this episode of the Legends of Tomorrow After Show, we're talking about Season 2, Episode 6, Outlaw Country. We're going to find out about Jonah Hex. He's back. Menopause. And we got to see if Nate can actually stop a train with his steel-bared hands. Let's do it.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
There you go. Hey, everybody. A little Jaunty Jig from Back to the Future 3 welcomes us into another edition of the Legends of Tomorrow After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. We'll be breaking down Season 2, Episode 6, Outlaw Country. I'm one of your hosts, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJack.
And I'm Dave Child. You can find me at MRDaveChild or DaveChild.com.
Okay. If I could,
I'm not gonna talk like that the entire episode.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do my Jonah Hex impression for
Dang
the
it,
entire
that's
time.
we gotta ration it out though, selectively.
Yeah, I'll just every time I say something negative about women, I'll just
Just
bring
look at
into
me.
it. Yeah.
Well, if I could, I'd be Frank Moran, but since I can't, I am Lex Michael all over social media at the Lex Michael.
I'm a woman, so I don't know if I can give out my social media handle in the Old West, but if you need it, it's at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet, since there is only one, Lacretia Lyon.
Yeah.
And folks, you can like us on Facebook, give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Lex's cup is full of those, and he needs more because he's consuming them at a rapid pace.
Almost seeing the bottom of the mug here, you guys.
Okay,
Oh
load
my
up those
God.
5-star reviews, please. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and hop in the chat. Lucretia's got her computer up, our resident
Yeah.
oracle. We'll be seeing everything you write about this particular episode. So if you want to comment about this episode or just the series in particular or in general, just feel free to chat away.
Or
We love
just
your
about Dave.
suggestion. Yeah, we love your suggestions about like the opening songs. By the way, keep those coming. We just couldn't like listen to it because we had to start the show right away. So, but we.
Plus, we all got really excited about that piece of music from Back to the Future
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. Right before we started, it's like I just said, you know, we should do that song from Back to the Future 3 that goes. And apparently, you could just Google that, and
Yeah.
it just popped up.
Yeah,
Just Google that noise.
You spell out that whole
Just
thing.
spell out.
The technology's amazing.
Now, before we get into the episode proper, finally, Dave and Lex actually let me watch the cold open of the show. I mean, because, guys, they always zoom past that. Never
He
let me do
pinned
it.
both of us down and grabbed the remote, and before we could get up from the floor, it was too late. He had already seen it and heard it.
So Stein is doing the narration in this one, and he
This is his first time hearing it because he's always late. He never watches it with us. I'm not gonna play or I'm not gonna yes and this live. We're always watching it from the very beginning, so we know this weird opener that's been happening every single time.
You know this?
Yes, it happens every single time.
Why did you
It's a
ever
different character.
It's a different character,
But
but
they say
every
the same exact thing, or they
Yeah.
always kind of tweak it? Because I don't know if I've heard any
they
Dave say
they
this.
always say, "Don't call us heroes, call us legends."
This is
They always say
ridiculous.
it.
Well, because he says we're a team of outlaws and misfits.
Yeah.
So please don't call us heroes. Call us legends. Like what? That is a
I'm
huge
not-
jump. Like a hero could be a legend, but an outlaw and a misfit.
I'm not
how does that
debating
get-
the absence of a logical through line. I'm just surprised at how strongly you're reacting.
Yeah, this is also the first time you actually watched the very beginning of the
Well, yeah,
show.
because it's a really inconsequential part of the show. It's just like a little. I know the premise of the show. I don't need to watch this.
Skip over it.
Yes, but again, my problem with them calling themselves legends. What is this?
That's why I like Lovable Losers from last time. Oh, right. We didn't have
still
legends on the back. We're notorious behind us. Oh, Louis.
Yeah,
Louis.
yeah,
Perfect.
let's keep going.
All right, what else?
Louis of tomorrow.
Speaking of legends, there we go. Last time they said like they referred to themselves as Lovable Losers, so I kind of wanted that to be the new name of the show.
I
Because
think
I think
so.
that describes the group a lot better, but
DC's lovable losers.
Lovable Losers.
Because I'm sorry, guys. Just by this definition,
Okay,
there,
you
if
can
you're
keep
saying
going
you're a
on this if
hero
you want.
or an outlaw or misfit, which one are you most likely to consider a legend? Looking back.
I know some legendary misfits.
All right.
I know some just misfits that went down in history and like Sasquatch. He's like a big misfit.
Yeah.
Well,
He
I'm an
doesn't fit
outlaw.
into any category.
The Misfit Toys got their own island.
Yeah.
This is the part you decided
Legendary.
yes and, guys. This. All right. Got it. Fine.
Will Smith and I Am Legend. What a misfit.
So we started this episode back in 1874 in Liberty, Colorado.
Yes.
And we get one of our time pirates, a really cool futuristic scanning device.
Yeah.
Makes searching for gold pretty easy back in that time period. But he's not looking for gold, guys. He's looking for
No, he's
something
looking for
else.
something else. What's he looking for? A dwarf star. A dwarf star buried under the earth. I thought dwarf stars were from actual dwarf stars.
Yeah.
Because the dwarf stars exist. They're just tiny stars. They're just really, really dense stars. So every time they talk about dwarf star material, I assume they got them from dwarf stars, or maybe a piece of a dwarf star fell, and maybe that's what happened here. Maybe a piece of dwarf star hit the earth when it was still molten and went underneath the earth in Liberty, and that's how it was there. But I still find it funny that they call a rock a dwarf star. Anyone else here?
Yeah.
Am I alone on this?
It sounds super cool and fun and science-y.
Yeah, because you put dwarf and star together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds super.
Those are two science words.
If you're not super well, if you're a scientific layman and you hear the term dwarf star, you probably go, "Oh, this sounds really fun and sciencey," and I'm not going to worry too much about it because there's a metal person in this episode.
Yeah, okay. I'm not worrying about it. I just think there's no like science word, like even kryptonite.
No,
sounds
right.
like a science word. Dwarf star just sounds like it's from a dwarf star. Okay, let's move off of this.
Guys, let's get back to the intro. See, they say that they're... so what's great, though, is we do get Jeff Fahey, and I think we can all agree any TV series that has Jeff Fahey in it is a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. Any film project in any medium with Jeff Fahey is a little bit better, certainly. And he's playing Quentin Turnbull, who y'all might remember appeared in the Jonah Hex movie, portrayed by John Malkovich.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
I skipped that movie. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
As soon as I found out that like Jonah Hex was magic, I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm
He's
good
not
with
magical.
not watching that.
Now, I feel like any time pirate, if you're going to be going back, and if you're going to bring along your futuristic tracking or searching device here to locate Dwarf Star, why aren't you going to bring some kind of futuristic ray gun or gun instead of use a 6-shooter? Because then he gets outgunned and outmanned by
Well, he
Jeff Fahey.
didn't get to shoot it off, so maybe it was a lot like Rip's like future
Pistol that kind
six-shooter
of looks like a
thing.
six-shooter.
But if it
'cause
was,
he's into the
Jeff
Old
Fahey would be
West.
using that all the time.
Yeah.
Man.
right.
Possible. I wonder if maybe he was trying to blend because he didn't think initially probably that he was going to get ambushed and killed so quickly, right? So he maybe was thinking like, I can't bring future weapons. That's going to draw even more attention to me than my
Right.
outfit. I need to use this one. Oh, there's a lot more of them dead.
Right. He should have worn a hat then. If he had worn a hat, blended right in.
That's true. Maybe his vessel doesn't have one of those cool outfit generating machines.
Or it makes everything but the hat, and it's
Yeah.
always like a weak point in every outfit that he makes.
Because he didn't pay for the upgrade.
No,
Yeah.
it's an upgrade hat.
You're still on like 95, you know. You gotta
Right.
get-
So
Yeah,
he does
the
get
upgrade.
shot. Jeff Fahey kills him and gets the little tracking device here. So something's going to be changing in the future. We don't know exactly what.
We get a time quick.
That's right. But then we're back on the Wave Rider, and we see they're looking over the item that they got from Damien Dark last episode. And there's a big, because they never showed it to us. There's like, what could be in the box? And it's just another amulet that there's no historical reference to it whatsoever.
Yeah, this is kind of the one part in the episode where they have to touch into the big storyline. Just be like, okay, remember this is going on. We got an amulet, we got a speedster, we got future berries message,
Yep.
which we're still not telling people. Don't know why, but we're still not telling people, even though we have a speedster involved here. So this is what's going on anyways. Let's find out what this timequake is.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole gist of that scene. But I kind of like that they're going around exploring like timequakes and little changes in time, because it's more. The adventure makes sense to me, and it also feels like it's something to distract you from the main story in a logical way. In a way.
I agree, because it feels like not every aberration is going to be coming from the Legion of Doom. There's
Right.
going to be these time pirates, which is cool. So you can have those one-off episodes where it's like they set up some aberration. We got to figure out what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And as far as any of them know, the Legion of Doom is not a thing yet. I mean, really, the Legion of Doom is not a thing yet. So the job is going around correcting these aberrations. So yeah, it's cool that it can potentially, the series could potentially run on this concept indefinitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also in the first season had a problem where, You knew it was Vandal Savage. You knew Vandal Savage was the problem. And you pretty much, they had these, we don't know where he is in time now, which always seemed like a stretch.
Yeah.
It's like you could find Vandal Savage if you like really wanted to. And this time they literally don't know who to look for, except for maybe Dark, but he's kind of, he's probably harder to find, except for the important moments.
Yeah.
So it kind of struck me as it makes more sense because they don't quite know what the Legion of Doom is planning, what's happening, or even that their name is Legion of Doom. So,
But it still seems hard to me that they would not know of Zoom at all. Or Reverse Flash, because it's like I feel like Gideon would
why
have that
wouldn't they?
information though.
oh, I guess, yeah.
Okay, because I would say none of those characters would have been dealing with Barry super often, super directly while he was handling Eobard Thawne. So maybe it wouldn't have come up beyond, oh yeah, I had to fight a really fast person in a yellow suit.
Right, and also to be fair, maybe they haven't asked Gideon yet.
Gideon's not going to offer that information up.
Yeah,
Only
I
if
don't
I'm
think.
asked.
Well, Gideon is a computer. I don't think it's like you're talking around. I mean, I guess Gideon sometimes says, "Oh, by the way, this means this," but it seems like maybe you just have to be, "Hey, Gideon, are there any famous evil yellow speedsters?" And then they'll be like, "Oh,
It's going to be incredibly
Gideon's
frustrating.
just kind of like a newer Siri that's a little bit better, but it's still going to give you like a dickish answer.
and you
That's
still have to
true.
press the button."
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Siri won't tell you have no friends unless you ask.
Ask.
Yeah, Siri won't change your name to Lover unless you actually go into the settings and change your name to Lover.
Interesting. A little peek into Dave Child's life right here on the Legends of Tomorrow After Show.
Anyways, about this episode.
Speaking of lovers, we see that Martin Stein is having these headaches through the course of the
Right.
episode, and we find out by the end what that means. But so because of those headaches, he's kind of sidelined himself from the main mission, which is heading back into Turnbull County, which is all of a sudden kind of taken over a portion of the United States and kind of changed history as we know it.
Yeah.
And the other cool element that we have running through is Nate and Ray. They're broing out, but I feel like at the beginning it's nice, like that tension between them. I feel like there's some still residual jealousy of Ray towards Nate for now having these steel powers.
And those scenes were just awesome, by the way. I love those two dudes broing out. They're just adorable.
Yeah, they're my new
that-
favorite friendship
yeah.
in this whole thing. Because
Yes.
it makes sense because they're both kind of
Nerdy, but
handsome
hot.
nerds.
Yeah. They could bring Zachary Levi in there and make it a trifecta there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you
Well,
go.
I like Frank. You just said like there was you detected a layer of like maybe jealousy between from Ray to Nate because Nate has the powers and Ray doesn't have a suit anymore. Ray actually makes explicit this connection in his mind between Nate and destroying the suit, which is
Destroying the
interesting.
suit.
And like it's interesting to watch them play this relationship that has those layers to it as well.
Also, don't forget, Steel's powers come from something that Ray made to give himself. And then Steel was dying, and so he gave it to him. So that's
what a
he
hero does.
took all of the powers, it seems.
Yeah,
So.
he's got 2 powers and Ray has none. Although he's got enough Dwarf Star now to make 20 Atom suits.
Yeah.
Well, no, his power is being terrified. I guess being terrified, but being a good dude anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at him go. Look at him go. Look at him go.
Look at him! Look at him go!
He was so cute, Ray.
So they head back to the past, and who do they come across first? They come across Jonah Hex about to get lynched.
And we find out Hex stands for huge sexist.
Yeah, laid it on really thick.
real thick. It's like in the old West, we don't trust any women. Also, I'm really glad we had captions on for this episode because every time he talked, I really couldn't understand what he was saying.
Maybe my memories are a little hazy from last season, but it feels like he has become more unintelligible.
Yeah, and I think we know why.
Well, I
Rip
always
is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that little piece of his heart is
A
gone.
little piece of his heart.
What I do, I always like Jonah Hex as a character, reading the comics and stuff, and I was excited to have him come back because I felt like we didn't get to see enough of him in the first episode that he was on last season, but this one did not give me what I was hoping for because I want to see Jonah Hex like taking charge, kicking butt. I mean, he's smart, capable, very savvy, and this felt like he was just like the bumbling idiot most of the time. And I
Yeah,
was like,
Sarah had to put him in his place.
Yeah, a lot of times it was I was a little disappointed too because I love those Hex comics and I like that he's such like a badass and it feels kind of like Preacher. It
Yeah.
feels kind of
Sure.
like that. It has that sense of just coming in and just, shooting up people or dealing with a gritty kind of dark world. And I don't know if it fits. I think the problem is like what we love about Jonah Hex doesn't fit into Legends of Tomorrow world, which is very bright, happy, and shiny. I mean, it's like it doesn't fit into. If we were gonna actually have Jonah Hex, they wouldn't know how to deal with him because he feels more like Constantine or something. Like it feels just dark and heavy and jagged.
Well, sure, and he's also an Old West hero. And you talk about one of the things you love so much about Jonah Hex is his savvy, is his ability, is his command of a situation that he finds himself in. Right. He is so far out of his element that it's all so... he's on a time shift. This is all so far beyond his realm of experience. He's not able to assume that role. So instead, he does get cast as this, like, I don't know what's happening now, but we're gonna blow up the mountain with the magic, with the thing and the stuff.
And again, second time this week, I wasn't the one to bring up Constantine. It's weird. But yeah, to me, the most disappointing thing was how we did not have any Brokeback Mountain-esque scenes with Rip. It just wasn't the same.
There was a moment when he was on the ship and he's like, so, where's Rip?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he's not here. Oh, that's fine. I'm not crying. I'm not crying. So anyways, I hate women. There's no reason behind my hate of women. Anyways, this woman likes other women. What? That's not right? You can't love the same type of sex, can you? I mean, it's not like that's capable.
What did Mick call Phillies?
Phillies.
It's like, what?
So I did like at the very top of the scene this addressing Rip's absence, and then that scene. The scene got real weird, and it got very
so strange.
Like you said, this is heavy amounts of whatever it is Jonah's doing.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, what I love about Jonah Hex is that in addition to everything that from the original comics, he's also a Western hero that's been catapulted into the future and had his own futuristic series for a while called Hex.
I forgot about that.
Where he actually gets to see how he ends up, where he's just a stuffed taxidermy body in a museum display. That is a great ending for a comic book series right there. So he's comfortable with the future and he knows all this stuff. So to have that knowledge and to see what the character's potential is, but to see him kind of portrayed like this, where he's just like the big blockhead, and I'm like, man, this is not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, the guy in the room who compares women to horses.
Yeah. Callio Calliopecerce.
You know
really
who you
difficult
are.
to spell. Worse than my name. But I was so surprised Rip didn't show up at the end in Hex's bed.
Yeah,
I
we were
like
expecting it too.
We were totally wanting that.
Hoping.
It would have been great if that was the stinger at the end of like Hex going like, well, you're right, they showed up, and he's just like putting on his clothes. It's just like, I knew they would. I cannot do a good Rip impression. Trying to do British and it came out like this.
Yeah.
Just more southern.
Well, he's going native.
He's going native. No one will know that I am British if I talk like this.
He just has Madonna syndrome, You just start
Madonna
sounding
syndrome?
like what you have sex with.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
right,
she
right,
got a
right,
British accent.
There you go. Don't just call us
Yeah.
friends. Our love will be legend. There you go.
We
Win.
are much more. Our love is misfits. Forget it.
Oh my. What I do enjoy though is Nate's just exuberance about his powers, and I felt that like tracked a lot through the course of the episode, where he's just like is excited to be able to go out there and block bullets as they're trying to shoot away while they're trying to hang.
The big smile on his face as he just goes, and he doesn't really have to do that, other than I think he maybe only brought the one suit with him,
Right.
but he'd be fine. But he's just delighting and just swatting him out of the air. Like those were some of my favorite moments tonight.
Yeah,
That
he
was so
represents
cool.
my favorite parts of this season. Just like having fun, just enjoying being a superhero, being a big fanboy, and just like leaning into it. That's what's great.
Now, Ray gives him a hard time because before they head out first, he comes across a sketch that Nate had made of his potential steel costume. And I feel like, if you had superpowers, wouldn't you want to have a costume? Why would you? I mean, come on. Who wouldn't sketch out a costume? I didn't even have superpowers, and I've sketched out that superhero costume for
Yeah,
myself.
but I wouldn't. if I had the power to turn steel, I wouldn't give myself a helmet. You know, like no.
What would you give yourself? Would you give it just like the little mask? Would that be?
That's the only time it makes sense
Yeah.
to actually have a domino mask because the rest of your body is armor.
Well, yeah, but you can wear a helmet. It would look cool.
Yeah, but it's just
But aren't your eyes also armor in that case? Like,
Yeah.
do you even
Do you
need
even
the
need a
domino
mask?
you
mask?
don't need the mask, but if you had the mask, you could actually pull off a domino mask for the first time because it doesn't actually do anything to protect you.
Yeah.
Except maybe your face or something.
I
I would go with like a t-shirt or maybe something like it wouldn't be that special.
It's
I already
definitely-
turned silver.
I thought he needed less clothes. I'm sorry.
Well, of course you would.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And I'm like, what is
definitely
that? Like-
it's a fashionable costume more than it is
Fashionable.
a functional costume. For sure. I think it's designed not to go like, oh, steel's definitely protected in the field, but more so you look at it and go, that's striking.
You know what? I was just about to say, even if I could turn into steel, I would still go shirtless because it would be like, rock hard steelness. But then there is a problem of when you steel down, then all of a sudden you're just jiggly again, like right away. So you need to protect that.
And I feel like maybe that's a case for Nate. It's like when he's not steel constantly. Sometimes he is human, so you still want to look cool when you're just human. So you want to have that cool.
So you
looking
want to have a
costume.
helmet.
You want to have a helmet. That helmet looks cool. I'm gonna with a little fin on it. Come on now.
Okay, put a little fin. I do like helmets with fins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those
that
are-
would add a little.
Yeah, nice little like Rocketeer thing going.
That's
Yeah.
right. James Olsen could take a few examples from that.
Oh boy. Here we go.
I'm not a killer. Oh boy. And a nice bright color scheme. That's what I give it up for steel. Bright and
Yeah.
colorful.
For sure.
James Olsen, take notice again.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right.
They're gonna do, I guarantee, they're gonna do a paint job sequence like in the Muppet movie where the Electric Mayhem does the song. They're gonna do one of those for Guardian's outfit at some point. And I'm gonna say, Frank, I told you so when this doesn't actually happen.
Well,
Nice.
Guardian's outfit is a lot like Adam's outfit in this, where it's another excuse to have an Iron Man. It's
Yeah.
just another Iron Man suit. And it's just focus on the powers that the character actually has.
Yeah.
And like use that. And I was really hoping we were gonna get to a belt or something short. But it looks like we're gonna get the suit coming up again.
Yeah, now he's got
Yeah.
enough dwarf star material to power 20 Atom suits.
Here's the thing. It's just in time for the team up.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
just in time for the team up, and I think they want to make sure that they have a shrinking Atom for the team up that looks a lot like the Atom we already were introduced to and know. So people who are, for some reason, just watching Arrow are continuing to know what's going on when he shows up, and they'll have a little like, oh, and this is Steel. He's new. But look at it. He's a helmet with a
Tons
fin.
of steel. And Alley Cat Diva says, LOL, Ray is joining Cisco and Win in the costume designer department. We actually are now going to have an award show across all four of them for costume design.
Catwalk. Hit
Yeah.
up the catwalk.
Yeah, certainly Ray's least favorite words out of his mouth this episode when he said exosuit. I'm like, come on. Darn it, guys. You were so close.
Wait, why? So why specifically does that bother you?
Because I feel like it should go back to what we've always talked about. Like, it should be just a size-changing belt. It should
Okay.
get back to old school.
It's funny how you want Steel to wear more clothes, but Ray to wear less.
Only a belt.
Wait,
They both need to wear less
He'd wear a
clothes,
cool
in my opinion.
costume.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be
He'd
just
have-
a
he'd
belt,
have
you
a
guys.
shirt. Right. Okay.
Only the belt, and then he'd have to be
Only the
pixelated.
belt.
He'd be pixelated, by the way, from the waist down.
That's the worst thing for a guy whose power is just to shrink. to just be naked with a belt the entire time. That is just demeaning.
I think he and Still both should wear outfits like that. I think that would be okay. That would be a good show.
Okay, sure.
But we're on the wrong network.
He'll
for
be
that.
his new name is Grower, not Shower.
I would watch that show. I would watch that show because in a world where the legends are that lax in their dress code policy, what else is true aboard this ship? That excites me.
If you're going to be a misfit or an outlaw, then, yeah.
You don't wear pants.
No, don't wear pants, guys.
We don't wear pants.
Oh, before we go too far, I do want to talk about how in the opening song, where it becomes a little like westerny opening
Yes.
version of Legends of Tomorrow, my favorite moment in this whole episode was the little like you see the whole opening thing, and then very quietly you just hear one person go, Yahoo! And then later on, they're like, "What's that noise?" And it sounds like. I thought maybe throughout the entire episode we were just gonna end each scene with a little Yahoo! Wow! Yeah!
That would actually be cool. Certainly, Nate and Ray were excited to be back.
Yeah, there
in
was
the
quite a
West.
bit of that in the episode.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It was diegetic yeehaw and not non-diegetic yeehaw.
It was also strange to watch this episode after digesting so much and catch me on the AfterBuzz show for this of Westworld, because I felt like everyone was going to be revealed to be hosts or robots at some point.
There was that moment in the saloon where everyone stands up and it's revealed that everyone is working for Turnbull, and I was like, oh, so it's like Turnbull's Westworld, and these are all of his hosts. And like when the saloon girl pulled a gun, I was like, oh, so they're all like his robots now.
Yeah.
As Hex tells the legends that Turnbull is not taking over this town, so everybody has either been driven out, works in the mines, or they work for him here in the town. So they have a plan. They're going to send, Sarah says, hey, Rory and Amaya, you go into the bar, get him out here on the street, that way we can get him. Hex and I will hang out here waiting for him, and then Nate and Ray and Jax, you get to dress as accountants.
Yeah.
And sneak into his organization. Which, again, Nate is very disappointed. Like, I'm the research guy, and I'm the accountant. I just want to be in on the action.
This is also the first time this season that they've broken up Firestorm, and that for not a very good reason. Like they like to do that last season, like a lot, and they've done it in this season before, but it made sense. They have to have Jax go in as a spy in the Civil War, and so it makes sense that an old white guy can't like follow him around when he's disguising himself as a slave. And in this time, it felt he had a headache, and so he stayed back, but he was also having these flashes of memories. But I kept thinking, like, why didn't they? I wish we saw a scene where they became Firestorm and they couldn't stay together because of these like flashes.
Right.
And then it would have been like,
interesting.
oh wow, okay, you have to stay back and figure out what's going on, and I'll head out and got some reasoning. And it didn't really have that this time around.
Yeah, a lot of the chat had speculated that maybe this girl is going to turn out to be Stein's daughter, since he was, he said to his younger self to spend more time with Clarissa. But my first thought was like,
that's a good
whose mom
idea.
is this going to turn out to be that he was banging? That's because I'm a weirdo, apparently.
So you think he's like banging Ray's mom?
Yeah,
or like Nate, somebody.
Or like he's secretly Heatwave's dad or something.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
That's where I was going, but I'm a weirdo.
Yeah.
You know.
I love the idea that it could be his daughter. That would be a nice little because I don't see that coming.
We just keep bending time to create new children for people in this universe, it would seem.
Right. Right.
If that is the case.
That's true. Well, speaking of
Legend point.
Oh, really quick, before we move on too far, you mentioned that they've got to go undercover as these tax folks. The build up to the moment where it's revealed what their cover is, it felt like we were about to do like an ironic cut, like we've got to go in undercover. What's our disguise gonna be? And it builds, and it's like, what are they gonna be, like saloon girls or something?
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, we're tax people and we're dressed the same. I was like, oh.
I really wish they were saloon girls.
I was like, okay. I was like, I'm fine with this, but it felt like we were building to like a whoa,
Big
and we
twist.
didn't.
Yeah.
seeing them shaving their legs and stuff. Gotta get ready, guys. We're going undercover.
See, that would have been more interesting.
Right.
Now, Mick is not doing following accordingly to the plan. Instead of like trying to make Turnbull all anxious and get ready to fight, they all of a sudden become best buddies. They're just hanging out, boozing up, really loving just life, and just talking shop about as two kind of hooligans would do.
Which makes sense, actually. Like it makes a weird amount of sense that those two would hit it off.
Yeah.
And then we see Hex acting like a chump again, which frustrated the heck out of me because I think he's like, I'm not waiting anymore. Your man's not following the plan. Why should I?
What did you guys think of Vixen and Rory's relationship in this? And, like the storyline that they're building, that they're kind of like helping each other out.
I
teaming the
really
animal.
liked it. To me, that made total sense with who her character is. She harnesses the power of the animals, and what better person to relate to than Mick Rory?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot as well. And I like that we keep pairing Mick off with different people and allowing these interactions to unlock different parts of him. I really like the potential for both of them in this relationship. I don't ship it. But if they can stay, if they stay platonic buddies and compatriots who actually benefit and grow from helping each other out, I love it, and I like what they did certainly in this episode.
Yeah, just like him with Sarah too. They always had a really good, interesting friendship. I never saw anything romantic, but he can talk to her because she's more of a bro with him. Like, And it's funny, maybe Mick is gay because he has, he loves Ray and he loves Captain Cole.
Not everyone has to be gay.
Well, on our shows, we love it.
Yeah.
Now, because it is interesting to see Mick's character. I mean, certainly after he got turned into Kronos last season, he basically had more of like an evolutional growth in terms of like intelligence and stuff. He came across as not like the meathead that he was. This season, we're kind of embracing more like that animal side of him too, and I mean, we can see that he can play both sides of it. Where he says, "I know what a metaphor is, but don't tell
him." I love that little moment of weird amount of self-awareness for Mick, and I really like that as well because he knows he's more conscious of himself than I think he's ever been before.
Yeah, and that storyline reminded me of Sarah and Hawk Girl from the first season, but done a lot better, like cleaner. And it didn't feel like this episode showed how you can have people kind of building each other's character but still have something to do with the actual story of the show and not have weird kind of in that storyline. I think I remember them training and it had nothing to do with what the actual show was about. So it was nice to have it kind of blend all into kind of one.
Because I feel like the subtle difference is like everybody is accepting of their powers and for the most part just like jazzed about having them. And I feel like Kendra last season was like, I don't even know what I am. Do I want to be this? What's going on? I'm supposed to be desperate with the guy. And I felt like she was always so reluctant to really embrace everything. It just made it really tough to get through stuff. And like,
sure.
I want people just to be excited that they got these powers or their abilities or whatever their mindset is, and like let's just see where that takes us.
Right.
So we see they do get into a big, huge fight that bleeds out into the street. We find out that Turnbull has taken the Dwarf Star and turned it into ammunition, and is able to fire it out of his gun for a cool explosive effect. It looks pretty awesome.
And this is one of those things where it's like in a world where one dude has shrinky powers, one dude has flying fire powers, and I can buy a lot of stuff. It was bugging me a little bit. Was it bugging anyone else on this panel that Turnbull was able to figure out how to use this technology so efficiently?
I don't know. I think it's basically, I wonder if I put it in a bullet, what would happen?
Oh, but even to find it, like to figure out how to use the little tracker device, you know what I mean? Like that little piece of future tech.
I don't know, because I actually thought you were going to have another. I have another weird thing along that same lines, but I felt like finding it. He met the guy and he's like, I'm looking for this weird ore. It's around here somewhere. This tracking thing brings you to it. It's really got to be useful. Like that was enough to be like, okay, it's obviously this rock that he's talking about.
Sure.
Wonder what it does. Let's hit it a bunch of times and see if it explodes. And it probably exploded.
Yeah.
And so he's like, cool, I'm going to put it into a bullet.
Right. And maybe the tracker was as simple as like no brainer, like just follow the beeping. And if it's beeping faster.
It was already on.
Right.
And it seems like they never turned it off. And then as soon as they found it, they put it down on it.
Right.
They just like left it in the mine, which I liked. Because at first I was like, why didn't he keep that with him? And then I realized, oh, he doesn't know how to work it. It only takes you to one spot.
Right.
You might as well leave it in the spot it takes you to. So that kind of makes sense. But the thing that bugged me about the logic of the bullets was, for one, if it's gonna explode, it sounded like a bullet size is what powered the Atom suit.
Yeah.
So it felt like it should have been a bigger explosion. Like it should have like broken off half of the bar. And also, when he shoots steel, why is it then it turns from an explosion to a very functional projectile?
Yeah.
So I felt like it should have exploded and then hurt him because it exploded so hard. Or always was a very good projectile that just goes through everything, but that doesn't look as cool. Yeah.
Well, the other part that was bugging me too is that the fact that it seems like as a projectile, or pretty much anytime you strike it, it's going to detonate. Yet, how did Turnbull have the technology or the wherewithal to know, like, all right, to separate tiny little pieces of it to turn into bullets? Because other than if you're just smashing it, I mean, that's huge explosions that you're causing. So I don't know how you would actually start carefully slicing off just small bullet-sized amounts that you could
have to hit it hard enough to do it.
Yeah.
And he just broke it off.
All right.
Maybe he rolled it on maybe it's just like dust. And he rolled on top of a bullet. He just like licked the bullet. And he rolled it on, put
into
it
the
in
dwarf
a
star
gun.
dust, yeah.
Oh, there you go. So you got into a heavy makeout session with a woman. Her face blows out.
Sure.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, because he got all that dwarf star stuff. On
That's
your
his
tongue.
superpower.
Or your tongue shrinks. It just shrinks to it.
Oh
no! I'll never kiss a girl again.
Whoa.
Anyways, nice moment for
Yes.
a quiet drop off.
Did you have a comment from the chat, Lacretia?
Oh, not about the bullets. Yeah, like no one
Nope.
has any theory on how those were made. My assumption was just he's been in every Robert Rodriguez movie.
Yeah.
He learned something there.
That's true.
I also think
Any character that Jeff Fahey plays is imbued with the gift of bullet magic.
Yep,
Yeah,
that works.
Also, what I love about Legends of Tomorrow, especially this season, is it feels like shark repellent spray logic, and I don't care. I'm just like I'm embracing it, and I think that's what the show's about.
Yeah.
If it was in the other shows, I might be like, wait, how did they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, these nitpicks on my part certainly aren't things that I'm legitimately bothered by. They're
Yeah.
things that it's like, well, I see this, and it's got me thinking, and I really want to follow this thread and see
Right.
where it leads me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after everything kind of goes pear-shaped in their first encounter with Turnbull, they head back to the Wave Rider. Sarah and Hex kind of hash it out about, hey, you got to, I mean, just I'm not just a woman, I'm a captain. I'll kick your ass.
I do have to say, this was another episode where we got to see Sarah be a great leader and
Yes.
like
Yeah.
a better leader than Rip.
Oh, for
ever.
sure.
We've been
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
a lot of that.
Yeah, and it's just in that opening scene too, where they show up to the town and she's like, "Okay, well, Mick, you go in and you be the match in the powder keg. You do this, and like is able to kind of point people in different directions that makes sense.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
they're good team ups and they don't sound weird.
Yeah, and they're not just to do a random shit for no reason. It's
Yeah.
just like she has a plan, and that's so not what Rip had last year. And then she's good at delegating. But yeah, I liked when she goes, "No, it's Captain Lance." It's like just like your dad.
Oh, I didn't even think of
Nice
that.
call,
Yeah.
Lucretia.
Oh, that is nice.
We also get a nice little scene again with Amaya and Rory where Mick was saying, hey, they like to think that I'm part of the team. They like to pretend that. They think they have me on a leash, but
Right.
that's not the case. Interesting to see how Mick feels about his role in the team.
And it's also interesting to see him be, again, it's this awareness he has of himself and his circumstance, but it's not leading him to become angry or violent or obstinate the way it would have certainly season 1 when he was first part of this team. Certainly when we knew him on The Flash, I don't think that Mick could be faced with a concept like that
Right.
and not get incensed to the point of aggression.
Yeah, and I feel like Mick at this point, I mean, because there's nothing keeping him here. There's no, he doesn't have to be here. He could go back to Central City anytime that he would want. But I feel like even though he won't verbally admit it, there is a connection forming between him and the rest of the legends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he feels like he is part of the team. He just is the wild card of the team. But they kind of know how to use him. And he also, this season's all about him figuring out who he is without Captain Cold. And and I think we get a good sense of that. And he's getting a good sense of who he is.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying that.
I was just going to say, and I like, too, that it's coming out in private one-on-one moments. Like, he's still in the group when it's all of them and it's that same group dynamic. He's still like, I just want to blow stuff up. He's still that guy. But privately, it's all of this as well. And I think that's very cool because that totally tracks believably with what he is experiencing.
And I feel that he feels the need to do that, to be that grunty, jokey guy around them. But, when he's just individual, like he goes back into more that Chronos, he's a little bit more thoughtful. He knows what a metaphor is, guy.
Yeah.
Don't tell them.
And then we have Nate and Ray bonding over where Nate gets to tell a bit of a backstory about trying to stand up to a bully, getting beaten up, and then he's basically afraid until he got these powers and feel like, hey, maybe I can still make a difference now. But after getting shot as a steel man, he's like, oh man, I don't know if I can still do this or not.
And he had a
Yeah.
51% survival rate. Couldn't you just said better than average?
Yeah. So the big grand plan, though, is they figure out that Turnbull's going to use all that dwarf star to blow up their railway at the summit point there to be able to separate the east from the west. Cut off the west from the east, and then you can take over the west, no problem. So they split up. Jax, Nate, and Ray are going to stop the train, and Sarah and Hex are going to go get Turnbull.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that that Steel got to do, I think, what everyone who wants to have superpowers wants to do.
Literally stop a moving train.
Stop a moving train. That was a cool moment. That was a very superhero moment. It's like something we saw in Spider-Man, and it's something that you get a sense of with Superman, with although faster than a locomotive, more powerful than a locomotive.
Yeah, faster than a speeding bullet.
Yeah, more powerful than the locomotive.
And he stopped a bullet and the locomotive in this episode. Sorry, I think he's better than Superman.
Oh.
He's
He
fun
refers
to
to
see.
himself,
Yes.
refers to himself
Yeah.
as the Man of Steel in
Yeah.
this episode.
Oh, meanwhile, Brandon Routh is like,
Come
come
on.
on! I was thinking about that recently because I was watching some they're talking about the team up that's happening in a couple of weeks, and they were talking about like Supergirl, and it was Brandon Routh hanging out with Supergirl, and he's in the Atom outfit and being like, yeah, this is Supergirl I'm hanging out with. I was like, oh, poor guy.
Yeah. You're
You're in the-
still my favorite Superman, Brandon.
Yeah, you were in the worst Superman movie ever, but still, like, you were pretty good
It's
at it.
better than Man of Steel.
No, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't. Lex Luthor is a real estate tycoon.
Yeah.
Let's not focus on that. But
No.
But I thought even the effects and the way they realized that whole sequence of him stopping the train, I thought was really well done.
Well, and also too, and we touched upon it earlier, but you know, Dave, you mentioned that this is something we've seen in, say, Spider-Man, or we've seen Superman do versions of it. But what we don't always get to see is the person who stops the train getting to then have a moment of, oh my God, I stopped the train. That is awesome.
yeah.
And I love that. I love that because, Dave, like you said, this is one of the first 3 things anyone would think of doing if they had these superpowers.
Right.
And wouldn't that be amazingly cool? So to see, you know, ourselves represented in that way is nice.
Yeah.
The last part of the mission is Mick and Amaya. They're going to go into the mine, blow that up so that Turnbull can't get access to any more of the Dwarf Star. So they go do that. They light it up. The mine blows up. They're able to, in the confusion, Hex is able to get the leg up on Turnbull, capture him, and look at that, guys. The United States is saved.
Yes.
They did it.
Yeah.
The Legends did it.
It wasn't taken over by a crazy millionaire.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry. Still fine.
The legends are
Yep.
coming any day to save us
Legends are gonna
Any
save
day
us
now.
from all crazy millionaires taking over
Is
America.
Is this Flashpoint?
Now, at the end of the episode, they did say their friends back in 2016 needed our help. So
Yup.
perhaps we know why. It's
Yes, we
election
do.
related. That's right.
I wish. It's gonna be aliens.
And then we have a moment again with Jackson Stein. We kind of figure out what may be the cause of all these headaches and flashes that Stein has been having. And I do like that Jax originally refers to it as a menopause moment.
Yeah, that was pretty adorable.
Hmm.
It was pretty funny. And Dave, when you said it's going to be aliens and then thinking of 2016, I'm like, could we have Independence Day?
Yeah.
But I will
Would be
say,
nice.
just because you just dropped the reference to the menopause line, as much fun as I had with many of the moments in tonight's episode, nothing compared to the sheer joy I experienced watching the 3 of you watch this episode and watching, like, when the menopause line happened, just doing like a boop, boop, boop at everybody's face and seeing the range of emotions that you all were feeling was a real treat for me.
Yeah, this isn't, if I'm gonna be honest, this isn't my favorite episode this season, but I really love I love that they get what the tone is and that they're playing with it. Every scene with Steel and Ray, that was so perfect.
Yes.
It was so
Yeah.
and they have great banter back and forth. And I love the, like, oh man, that was a really great inspirational speech. And he's like, good, oh, I have more. I have, and it's just like, you know
nailed
what? You
Nailed it, buddy.
That was perfect. Or like are you guys done broing out in here? And they're like, no, but
We could be if we're...
we can. Okay.
I
It was great.
It was adorable. I did love when Sarah just totally shut down Ray. Or like, get to the part we care about.
Yeah.
I was like, that was such a good burn.
There's such a nice increase in quality in terms of the relationships and the dynamics this season.
Absolutely.
But everything that bummed me out that they did with Hex this season, this episode, really bummed me out because they already had him on last season.
Why
so
you gotta
figured you'd be
end
able-
with a negative?
It's just like you're gonna
Okay,
bring.
we're talking about all
right.
the good stuff.
Everyone
I
just
know,
felt
I
too
know,
good.
yeah,
I get
Yes.
it, but it's just like I'm hoping that the Legends writers, if they're going to bring in these iconic characters, they just nail them as good as they do the rest of the core cast. That's all I'm asking.
I agree. But wasn't this episode fun?
But guys,
Fun
let me.
episode.
So in summation, Frank Moran demands it is all perfect all the time.
Absolutely. Is
Yeah.
that too much to ask for our
Oh, no.
television?
God.
Should we not demand the best from our writers, producers, and creators? Should we not hold them up to higher standards?
What do people in the chat think?
Oh, there was a pretty good comment about why wasn't the Wave Rider alerted when Flashpoint happened? Wasn't that a big
Right.
time riff?
Wasn't that
I'm
a
trying
big
to see who said that.
timequake?
Yeah.
I think they made that little timequake thing a little bit before that actually happened. So
Yeah.
That's my geeky explanation for how it
That works.
Maybe
or a
that's
little
what,
after.
maybe that's
a
what
little
Barry's future message is.
after.
And that's all it is. It's like,
Yeah.
whoops. Oops. So you guys, like 50 years ago, I did something.
Yeah, it was
Sooner.
Art Master Austin Prophet. Well, that's a fun name. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, as we're talking about Barry's future message, why don't we talk about some future thinking of our own and do a few
Right.
predictions?
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Now, of course, we know in 2 weeks we're going to have the big four-way crossover event. We've got the Dominators coming in to attack Earth. It's going to take all these heroes from all 4 CW shows to team up to stop these guys. But after that, do you guys have any predictions about that crossover or anything else that you think is going to happen this season?
I think we're gonna get a subtle Superman joke out of Ray. I think that's going to happen, or maybe not so
Yeah,
subtle.
that's what I was going to say. Ray's not subtle.
Yeah, but it's I really hope they have a little bit of nod towards Brandon Routh now hanging out with Supergirl.
And
They
there
better.
would be plenty of opportunity to work that in somewhere because they're all just meeting Supergirl for the first time. She comes from her own like slightly separate dimension, and I'm sure there'd be some conversation about like, well, what heroes are on your world? And then Superman could be casually name dropped.
Right.
Certainly. I know Malcolm Merlin is about to show up on Legends. I think as part of the crossover, and he's joining the
really?
Legion of Doom.
So this is probably the
Deathstroke's going
cross.
to be in as well.
I know that the mid-season finale was slated for Captain Cold and Merlin showing up on Legends, but they may be part. I didn't say they weren't excluded from the crossover.
I thought it was. I thought it was even sooner than that. I may be mistaken, but I thought I saw something. I thought I saw something as recently as today that it might be a little bit sooner.
I hope so. He's my favorite, man. I love that guy.
Yeah.
Well,
He's been
it does
really
cross
missed.
over with the 100th episode of Arrow. That
Yes.
plays. That's an episode that airs during this crossover. So we'll see Deathstroke and we'll see a few
Yeah.
other characters from the past of Arrow. coming
The
up.
producers of Arrow have talked about everybody they could possibly bring back. They want to bring back. They want it to be like the 100th issue of a comic book. Like it's a big like love letter to the series. We're tying it all back to the beginning. Like it as a huge nerd, like they're speaking directly to the things that I want to hear moving towards 100th episode of a show I watch.
Does that also mean they're going to stop with the flashbacks in that 100th episode?
Well, they've talked about after this season, we've now seen the 5 years of flashbacks, so they would be done with them going forward.
Unless
Very
they do
true.
flash forwards, guys.
Yeah, they
Yes,
could do
and,
that.
and it's all old
Lost.
Oliver
Yeah.
from Legends last season with his one arm
And his goatee.
being real upset, even
right.
more upset than he is now.
As long as Dolph Lundgren's in it, I'll watch it.
Totally.
All right. Boy, I guess that does it. Any other predictions for anybody else?
Well, I predict that Legends of Tomorrow is going to change times.
Is that really a prediction, Dave? Or
It's news. It's going to be on Tuesdays now, right?
Yes.
I believe they
Yeah,
are
right after
moving.
Flash,
Yes,
yeah.
Tuesdays after Flash. That is correct.
And that's in January.
yes,
So
Yes.
January 24th, I
Yes.
believe.
Yes.
Okay, so still for the crossover, we're going to get like one episode a day of the crossover.
Oh, yeah. It'd
So
be
you got to
very
watch
cool.
all the issues. And so we'll probably talk about everything on that one.
That's the hope.
And I also predict I'll be eating a lot of turkey and sleeping next Thursday instead of being here.
Oh, that's a good prediction right there. I figure since we have the last episode of that four-way crossover, that'd be a cool thing. We'll be able to look back on the whole thing in total and see how successful they were in accomplishing this enormous TV event.
How insanely cool is it that we've got 4 big budget, big scale superhero shows in a shared universe and they're all crossing over? Like, I'm still, the amount of face scraping, my face off the floor, I'm going to have to do over the course of that week is immense. Science has yet to determine a system of measurement to calculate such an amount of face scraping.
And luckily, we have Frank Moran's camera skills to film all that.
That's right. I'll be documenting Lex's reactions in live time right there, so you can watch every minute expression, every micro expression,
Every tick,
every talk,
every
of
jitter.
Lex Michaels' face.
I love Kal-El Kent. Poor Gotham. Oh, it's still good. Penguin's in love with Riddler, guys. That's just awesome.
I don't watch Gotham.
Why did you have to end it on a negative note, Dave?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hey, for the crossover, try to watch all of the episode, including the beginning, huh?
Oh boy. We're not just we're Misfits and Outlaws. Don't call us heroes.
Please remember that we're a bunch of misfits, or some would call legends. So please remember to give us those 5 stars, put a good review, Feed him, feed old Lexi, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
That's right, yeah. If you want to continue the conversation with us even after this show's over, you want to just check in with Dave Child as he's supping next Thursday during Thanksgiving. Where
I'll
can
tell
they
you what I
find
sup about.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's up. I'll tell you what's up.
Where can they find you, Dave?
I'm gonna get there. It's at mrdavechild or davechild.com.
I am all over social media at D-Lex. I was distracted by the notion of you supping so aggressively.
Listen, you're all imagining me sup right now, and that's a good gift for you tonight.
Whoa! I am all over social media at the Lex Michael. I'm also all over the DC on CW on ABTV slate. Supergirl on Mondays, Arrow on Wednesdays. I'm here on Thursdays. We do Ash vs. Evil Dead on Sundays. We also do Comic Book Exchange on Wednesdays. So many wonderful places to come. Nerd out with us, please do. We love you all. Mwah.
And since I'm Lacretia Lyon, guys, you can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet and, wherever these guys are.
That's right. And you can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. During the crossover event happening in 2 weeks, there's going to be some changings up here. We're also going to cross over in our panels, recapping all these episodes as well. So you'll see perhaps an unfamiliar face or two on each of one of the after shows. So that'll be kind of fun. Except for Lex Michael. He pretty much does all of them. So that's going to be a very familiar face.
You'll
no matter
be
where he
sick
goes.
of Lex.
There you go. But as next week is Thanksgiving, folks, we'll give you an early thanks so much for being such a great support, happening in the chat room, sharing your thoughts, being fans of us doing the after show. We love the show. We just want it to be as good as you folks at home want it to be. So I'm glad we can all just get together and just share our exuberance and sometimes frustrations, but exuberance, guys. Right, Dave Child? Because we're all thankful.
What a bunch of legends we are.
That's right. We'll see you next. We'll see you in 2 weeks, right here on the Legends Tomorrow After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.